Viewers, I extend my warm greetings or reception to you on the editorial thought. When you think about dramas, your mind will first alight upon entertainment, and nobody will punish you for thinking that way. However, as William Shakespeare believed, all the world is a stage, and the men and women merely players. In the United States, the key actors in the political realm, particularly the Republican candidate, Donald Trump, do not tire of making the headlines. It is no longer news that Trump has survived a second assassination attempt. The first attempt was in July in Butler, Pennsylvania, when Trump was shot in the ear while going about his electioneering campaign. Then the second happened as the former president was playing golf in Florida on Sunday. U.S. Secret Service agents hemmed in a man with AK-47 rifle at Trump's golf course, and Trump was safe again. While people who believed that Trump staged the first event might still hold this belief, or are now convinced that it was a real assassination. Trump is now being held as an American hero. That's what Roger Gewolb, a political commentator, has to say.
All that vitriolic talk, Rita, it could also be Iran, who is said to want to take out Trump more than anything. It could be China. It could be all sorts of groups, and one doesn't know. But I think the thing that is important is that Trump is an American hero, and for the second time he stood up and he said, I'm not going to surrender. You're not going to get me.
Ironically, the man who was largely believed to have destroyed American democracy by his mastermind of the 2020 Capitol Hill invasion now appears to be a prey. You may still have in mind that since 2016, Trump has been a target of dangerous political rhetorics. The comparisons between Donald Trump and historical dictators like Hitler and Mussolini remains a contentious issue in the United States. Trump's critics argue that his own rhetoric and actions bear an eerie similarities to those of the notorious leaders. Take a look.
When is the time to sound the alarm? When is the time to start saying, well, does this look like Germany in 1932?
Increasingly, Donald Trump is turning this nation into Nazi Germany.
If the party nominates Hitler, you're going to vote for him? I mean, that's what I don't get.
I want to start using the word fascist.
Yeah, he's a fascist.
And tendencies, many tendencies like Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
I said it, throw me off the air.
I hate comparing Trump to Hitler because Hitler could concentrate for more than 30 seconds and had normal-sized human hands.
You actually draw a line from Nazi Germany to the U.S. southern border. You remember that back then, boatloads of refugees were turned back. Let's put up Charles Lindbergh and the 1940s Nazi sympathizers. They were also called Make America First.
Why do you think he uses the term America First, which is taken from history back when Nazi Germany was rising?
Language that he's using echoes language used in Nazi propaganda.
I'm sorry, is that straight out of Nazi Germany?
And frankly, it could be straight out of Munich circa 1928.
That is exactly why Donald Trump is compared to Hitler.
It's methodology that Trump no doubt learned from any number of authoritarian leaders over the last 90 years. Ataturk, Franco, Mussolini, Stalin, and Hitler.
This is not a reach. I could go back and talk about Nazi Germany, and I do it without any concerns whatsoever. And if people can't start drawing the parallels, well, you're just stupid, or you have your head in the sand, or you're one of them.
Hillary Clinton, former Democratic candidate in 2016, also compared Trump to Hitler. She noted that even though Trump was legitimately elected, he could still do away with elections, opposition, and the press.
People would get legitimately elected, and then they would try to do away with elections and do away with opposition and do away with a free press. And you could see it in countries where, well, Hitler was duly elected.
That's right.
Right? And so all of a sudden, somebody with those tendencies, those dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies, would be like, oh, okay, we're going to shut this down. We're going to throw these people in jail. And they didn't usually telegraph that.
Trump himself claims that such comparisons are not only unfounded, but also potentially dangerous, citing 2 attempted assassinations as evidence. Now, why is Trump likened to Hitler and Mussolini? One basic reason is his reliance on the nationalist and the authoritarian rhetoric. Like Hitler, Trump exploited national pride and promised renewal, tapping into Americans' feelings of disillusionment and frustration. His America's First slogan and tough stance on immigration resonated with many, but also raised concerns about xenophobia and isolationism.
As President of the United States, I will always put America first, just like you should always put your countries first. Rocket Man. Tonight, I will share with you my plan for action for America. The most important difference between our plan and that of our opponent is that our plan will put America first.
Trump's campaign was marked by divisive language, targeting specific groups and exploiting existing social tensions. Now, this style of rhetoric is characteristic of demagogues who use emotional appeals to mobilize support and create an us versus them mentality. By framing himself as a champion of the forgotten Americans, Trump created a sense of shared grievance among his base, which some argue contributed to increased polarization and social unrest. Now, one source that revealed evidence of Trump's fixation on Hitler was the Weekly Standard. In 2016, the media source uncovered that Trump had been keeping copious notes of Hitler's speeches by his bedside. Have a look.
One of the sources of the establishment Republicans who are against Trump is the Weekly Standard. Almost all their establishment people are. But they're trying everything. They found this week, they dug up this. Look at this. Vanity Fair article from 1990. Trump kept a volume of Hitler's speeches by his bedside.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know if this was true, so I said, you know, I've seen a lot of Hitler speeches on, you know, old documentaries and stuff, but I don't sprechen Sie German. I don't know what he was saying. So I had one of Hitler's speeches translated into English, and I think this tells us a lot about where Donald Trump is getting his ideas. Look at this Hitler speech, and we've translated it for you. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to make Germany great again. That I can tell you, believe me. Germany doesn't win anymore. England, France, America, they're laughing at us. The Treaty of Versailles, a terrible deal. We have stupid people who are our leaders, really stupid people making terrible deals. President Hindenburg, he's a stiff, very low energy. He built a blimp with his name on it. It was a total disaster. Look, we are going to have a military so big and so strong that we'll never have to use it. Okay, maybe we'll use it a little. Look, we don't conquer anymore. We don't annex territory. When I'm Führer, Germany is going to annex again. There's going to be so much annexing, you're going to get sick of annexing. And look, I love the Jews. Nobody loves the Jews more than me. But folks, either we have a fatherland or we don't. So we're going to have to build a camp, and I will make the Jews pay for it. Oh, when I'm done with them, they'll be saying Merry Christmas. That I can tell you.
Today, especially in honor of our great veterans on Veterans Day, we pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country, that lie and steal and cheat on elections and will do anything possible. They'll do anything, whether legally or illegally, to destroy America and to destroy the American.
To some ordinary Americans on the streets, Trump, by his extreme nationalism, is the worst president of the United States.
That's a big, accomplishment.
Think Trump is worse than Hitler?
Yes.
Yeah,
could be.
Definitely.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
He's childish.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
He's trying to stop, food stamps. People need those.
Do you think that...
Indigenous, too, and I know Trump does not really, support Indigenous people.
Yeah. answer.
Some people put that Trump is worse than Hitler. What do you think about that?
Possibly in however many years when we're looking back on Donald Trump, we might put him in the same category as Hitler.
In contrast to other Americans, the idea of comparing Trump to Hitler and other dictators is just disgusting. Have a look.
This is disgusting. The left and CNN and the New York Times that do this, and they do it every single day. Every single day they allude to it. They allude either subconsciously or consciously. They try to make this inference that Donald Trump is Hitler. Okay? And you've heard it. How many of you heard that before? Donald Trump is Hitler. Do you know what that does? That cheapens the evil of Adolf Hitler. It cheapens the suffering of the Holocaust. Because if this is Adolf Hitler, maybe the Holocaust wasn't that bad, right? All of a sudden, because they go on these networks and these dishonest reporters, they say, this is the rise of the Third Reich. Really? Really? President Trump has disbanded voting rights for Jews? President Trump is doing massive gun confiscation? President Trump is assimilating power to unprecedented amounts. This is the most transparent president in American history. We are getting reports on his colonoscopy, folks, okay? This is the most transparent president in American history. And somehow he's like this secret authoritarian dictator that's taking power that no one knows about. But it cheapens the evil of Hitler. And here's the other thing. They say, he's an anti-Semite. He has a daughter that converted to Judaism, that honors Shabbos. His grandkids are Orthodox Jews. His son-in-law is a Jew. Like, what else does this guy have to do?
He does all these things in favor of Jews. I have all these Jewish friends who hate Trump with all their heart. They think he's anti-Semitic, but meanwhile they think Obama's a champion and a warrior. But I can't even name a single thing Obama's done. He's the most anti-Israel, anti-Semitic president I have ever...
Now, viewers, beyond all these conspiracy theories, there are three important considerations I would like to point out. In the first consideration, the news of Trump's second assassination attempt is emblematic of the flawed American democracy. The comparisons between Trump and historical dictators serve as a warning about the dangers of unchecked political rhetoric. When leaders use language that dehumanizes or demonizes certain groups, it can have devastating consequences. For the same reason, Hitler's anti-Semitic rhetoric paved the way for the Holocaust. We all know about the Holocaust. And Mussolini's nationalist fervor led to Italy's involvement in the World War II. Republicans and Democrats have an obligation to keep away from rhetorics and demagoguery capable of plunging America into another civil war, bloody civil war. Instead, Americans should heed the axiom of Abraham Lincoln that the ballot is much stronger than the bullet. So Americans, all your grievances should be expressed at the ballots.
Trump been assassinated that day.
Man.
I don't think anyone really understands the levels that we would have gotten to. You mentioned teetering on something catastrophic. You mentioned that we don't, condone political violence. But the truth is, everything that's gotten us here today to have such a historic thing that we all saw, whether we saw it live or we saw it on television or on our phones, there is a reason why we're here today. And I think when everyone keeps saying, political violence doesn't have a place, I think that it's been quite comfy for quite some time. And it really is important that we're honest about what has taken place. This has been one of the most violently escalated from debates to campaigns to rallies. It is January 6th cannot be denied.
Making fun of Nancy Pelosi's husband.
There's so much that goes into this, and I do think it was very important, to Al's point, that both candidates took a step back, because what is happening here is you say teetering, I think civil war. And honestly, I don't think that that's sensationalized to say that. So I'm glad.
Now, in the second consideration, it is amazing to learn of how the Trump's failed assailants was captured. It was a combination of technology, community cooperation, and the shrewdness of the U.S. Secret Service. Let's hear what Sheriff Rick Brashaw, Palm Beach County, had to say about this shooting.
On the fence that had ceramic tile in them and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off. So that's what we know about the investigation. We have somebody in custody right now that is a potential suspect. We got a little bit more work to do on it, but as we usually do, as soon as we decide that we're going to book him into the county jail and the charges that he's going to be booked into, we'll get those to you and we'll get a picture of them.
Sean Hannity, American writer, also spoke of his conversation with Trump on the shooting.
Since this incident, and each time I got a new piece of information. One, that they had found, first of all, what happened with the shooting. The second thing, that they had found that AK-47. Third, that their drone footage was able to give them enough surveillance to identify the exact car that the individual involved in this shooting got into. And further detail that they gave me was that they were updated and told that that car had been found, identified, was surrounded by law enforcement. I don't know what happened from there. It could not have been too far away. I would say the time frame was less than a half hour between the time that the shooting actually took place and they identified the car. So
I'm trying to find out.
Now, this is a piece of emulation for African countries like Nigeria, overwhelmed by all categories of insecurity, including terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, and armed robbery. These countries need to borrow and live from the United States security intelligence, as well as the cooperation of the people in helping to detect the number plate of the assailant's vehicle that led to his apprehension. And finally, we can say that the United States security forces are formidable. Of course, they are strong. Yes. The fact that the United States, since 9/11, have not had a major international terrorist attack on its soil is worthy of commendation. Unfortunately, the United States has been grappling with a deadlier canker of gun violence. Trump's attempted assassination has laid bare a glaring contradiction in the United States' approach to security. While the Secret Service's swift response ensured the president's safety, the country's inability to protect its citizens from gun violence is appalling and ironic. Every year, thousands of Americans, mostly children and teenagers, are killed by the bullet. In 2020 alone, about 39,000 people were killed by this domestic terror. And then in 2021, we had the highest toll of more than 48,000. In 2023, let's hear what analyst Michael Ware had to say about this on that year.
What's happening?
Well, there's so many reasons for that, and yet so many questions that go unanswered. I mean, we often hear about the mass shootings, and there's already been 165 mass shootings in the United States this year alone. That's almost 1.5 a day. But this week, it feels like we've had a deluge of smaller shootings that has really broken all our hearts. Here in America, people may be dull to this kind of violence, but they're not numb to it. This is a country where there's more guns than people. This is a country where the 30 states have a stand your ground law where, your home is deemed your castle, and if someone is thought to have been entering it, you don't have to back off and give them a chance to answer for themselves. You can just shoot them on site. So this year alone, about 17,500 people have died in gun violence alone, and 453 of them are teenagers and 77 of them of kids.
Very sad indeed. Now you get my point. The life of the president or politicians is shielded with utmost vigilance, while innocent lives are lost to senseless gun violence. This aberration raises a haunting question. Are the lives of the powerful more valuable than those of the ordinary people, the ordinary Americans? This disparity is a symptom of a broader disease, a political system that prioritizes the interests of the elite over the welfare of the citizens. The United States must therefore rectify this imbalance. It has to adopt an approach that prevents not just the assassination of high-profile individuals like Trump, but also the killing of ordinary Americans, especially the black race, the black people. In doing this, the U.S. government should consider a comprehensive gun control reform. It is distressing how circulation of small arms have become a norm in the United States. Incontestably, these firearms they are used to foment all kinds of trouble, aggression across the country. Only when we acknowledge the inherent value of human life can we begin to build a more equitable society. Until then, the shield of protection will remain reserved for the few, leaving the many exposed to the whims of fate. I am Toshukwu Raphael Ogwamaka. Thanks for joining me. If you like my videos, do not hesitate to hit the like button, make your comments, share my videos, and then subscribe to Diaspora Digital Media for more exquisite, exciting news. Bye-bye.